لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم أجمعين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So I was asked to speak about the purification of one's heart. And this is a very difficult subject to speak about, mainly because I'm perhaps one of the least qualified to talk about this subject. Unfortunately, the vast majority of us, and I know I'm speaking for myself when I say this, our hearts, in one way or form or another, are diseased. They are hard, they are unaccepting of the truth, they are not moved when we hear the words of Allah, they are not moved when we remember death, they are not moved when we see what should move a healthy heart. And so, alhamdulillah, this has given me the opportunity to prepare some thoughts and ideas about what a person can truly do to benefit himself and his hereafter. Now, why are hearts important? This is a question that I was asking. Why is the heart important? Like, what is the significance of a person's heart in his life? And of the body itself? Why isn't it the mind? Why isn't it something else? Ibrahim alayhi salam, he makes dua in the Quran, and he mentions the hereafter, and he says, رَبِّ لَا تُخْزِنِي يَوْمَ يُبْعَثُونَ يَوْمَ لَا يَنْفَعُ مَالٌ وَلَا بَنُونَ إِلَّا مَنْ أَتَى اللَّهَ بِقَلْبٍ سَلِيمٍ. He says, Oh Allah, do not shame me on the day of judgment, on the day when no wealth will help you, nor any children. The only thing that will help you on that day, when you are standing in front of your Lord, being held accountable for every little thing you ever did in your life, is only one thing, and that is the healthy heart. He said the only thing that will help you on that day is a healthy heart. Now think about this for a minute. He was afraid that his own heart was not healthy. Now if Ibrahim was afraid of this, aren't we more entitled to be afraid and more entitled to look at our own hearts and see what exactly is going on with our hearts and the diseases that might exist there, the hardness of the heart? The Prophet ﷺ, in a very long hadith, where he says that the halal is very clear and the haram is very clear, and between the two there are many things that a lot of people do not know about, doubtful manners. And he says, whoever stays away from the doubtful manners, then he is in safety in his religion. But whoever goes into the doubtful manners is like the person, he says, like the shepherd who has his sheep, and they're eating, grazing amongst the lands that might be owned by someone else, that they're not theirs. Let's say they're owned by a king, and in the hadith he mentions that they are a king. And he says that a person who's going to doubtful manners is going amongst the limits that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has set. And that he's falling into these doubtful manners, and he says that he will eventually commit haram, he will eventually commit sin, he will fall into disobedience, into mistakes. At the end of the hadith, what does he say? He says that indeed in the body there is a piece of flesh, that if it is good, the rest of the body is good, and if it is bad, the rest of the body is bad. And he says it is the heart. Now what does this part of the hadith have to do with the beginning? This is a question I'm asking you right now. What does the last part of the hadith, where he talks about the heart, has to do with falling into doubtful manners, into halal and into haram? He says that if you do the last part, the first part will be very easy to take care of. But if you don't have the last part, you will fall into those doubtful manners, you will fall into sin, you will fall into mistakes. And you will indeed transgress against the limits that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has set. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will decree His punishment against you. So that your heart is the key to your success. It is the key in staying away from doubtful manners. It is the key to being aware of what is halal and what is haram. Because once your heart is good, it gives you a good sense of direction. It gives you the sense to know this is good, this is bad. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says about the Quran that it is a cure to what is in the chests, meaning the hearts itself. So we know that the Quran is a cure. And I don't want to talk about the sickness too much, as we try not to be too negative. But one of the main things that the scholars have talked about and that the Quran talks about, when it is dealing with the cure, it's diagnosing the problem, and obviously the problem is the weakness of our hearts, the sicknesses of the hearts, the harshness of the heart, etc., etc., etc. But imagine with me that the heart is like a vessel. It's like a bowl. And they say it can be filled with whatever you want. That heart. Some people's hearts are full of things. Wallah, it is surprising to find out what people's hearts have in them. One of the ways you know what a person's heart is full of, by what their tongues say. There's an athar, and in fact, in some narrations, it is a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, but nonetheless, where he says that the tongues are the scoops, if you will, of what's in the heart. And then it works both ways, meaning that your tongue can pour into the heart good things, but it can also take out what's in the heart and show it to the public. That you know what's truly inside a person's heart by the way, what they talk about, what they say, and how they deal with things. Nonetheless, let's go back to the example of it being a vessel. They say that you need to empty it from everything other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then fill it with everything regarding Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is only done by practice. Only done by practice. It is interesting to note, I heard this from one of the mashayikh, where he was saying, he was asking this question, he's like, can anybody of you conjure some of the wisdoms why it is recommended for people to go early to the salah? And a lot of people are thinking like, what, I don't know, more reward? And obviously that's what the Prophet ﷺ says, yes, go for more reward. That's the apparent. But it's like, why is it though? Why is it more reward to go there? What are you doing when you go to the masjid early? What are you going to occupy yourself with? You're going to occupy yourself with the remembrance of Allah. You're going to do extra salah. You're going to read more Quran. You're going to make more dhikr. You're going to do all of these things. All of these things are facilitating in emptying the heart from everything that's outside of that environment. From your worldly gains, your job, your school, problems at home, your businesses, the love of the dunya, TV, internet, whatever it may be. You're slowly emptying it out and pouring in the remembrance of Allah. And this is a great key in helping out your heart. Because by the time the salah comes, that you're waiting there for, your heart is totally empty and it is ready to accept, you're ready to pour in the pure salah, the pure worship, the pure sincerity that you should have with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. These are just some benefits. Also, they talk about one of the most critical things that are detrimental to a person's heart are sins. The Prophet ﷺ says that there is no heart except that it has a cloud above it. He's providing an example. And he's like, imagine that your heart is like the moon. And you're shining very bright. It's a full moon. It's very clear. And you fall into a mistake, a sin. And that sin becomes a cloud, where it disturbs the amount of light that's reaching the earth. And the more you sin, the more cloudier it gets, until no light shines from that moment. It says the same thing as the heart. That the light of the heart will stop once there is sinning. But as soon as a person remembers Allah, and remembers to stop, that cloud will move away. This is in the hadith. In another one, the Prophet ﷺ, he says that every time a person sins, a black dot will be put onto his heart.